Hey everyone! In today's video, I'm excited to share my top 10 things you need to know when dining in Japan. Let's dive into some Japanese restaurants and eating tips. If you find any of these tips interesting, weird, or if you have your own experiences, feel free to share them in the comments below. Now let's get started. First up, let's talk about sharing food in Japan. It's a bit of a unique situation. In some places, it's totally fine, while in others, it might be considered inappropriate. For instance, ramen shops with limited counter space usually frown upon sharing, as it affects their turnover rate. This is even more true as usually, there is a queue waiting to get a seat during lunch and dinner time. They make less money if a customer takes up a seat but does not place an order. Even at upscale sushi joints, it's expected for everyone to order their own meal. On the other hand, family restaurants and cafes are okay for sharing. When you go to a drinking restaurant, also known as an izakaya, they expect you to share your food, and at the end, everyone just splits the bill. If you have kids, it's a bit trickier, and calling ahead to check is a good idea. Next, finishing your food is crucial in Japan. It's considered rude to order a dish and not finish most of it, though leaving sides is more acceptable. If you can't finish your meal, it's okay to share with your dining companions, but only if they've ordered their own. If portion sizes are a concern, don't hesitate to ask for a smaller serving. It's perfectly fine. Customizing your meal in Japan is not as common as in the West. Japanese people generally don't request changes to their dishes, fearing it might offend the chef. If you have allergies, though, it's crucial to communicate that. Don't just say allergy, they won't understand it properly. Say ari rugi and then what you're allergic to. However, even then, it can be challenging, as not all waiters or chefs may fully understand your dietary restrictions. If you're going to try to do this in English, then you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. Instead, high-end restaurants might be more accommodating, but be prepared to pay a bit extra. Vegans, take note. Many Japanese dishes use meat or fish-based broth, even in seemingly vegetarian options. Some restaurants advertise a vegan menu, so keep an eye out for those. If it's not advertised, then more likely they're going to have broth with meat or fish. Unfortunately, there's a lack of understanding about vegetarianism in Japan. I've gone to restaurants with my vegan friend, and she's told the waiter that she's vegan, and the waiter actually asked her if fish was okay. So do your research before heading out to eat. Before digging in, don't forget to say Itadakimasu. It's a common phrase, and while it might seem like a deep ritual, it's more of a cultural habit. It translates to receiving, and saying it shows respect for the food, though not necessarily for spiritual reasons. Japanese were taught when they were kids, and it's just the thing to do. So if you want to be more like a local in Japan, then say Itadakimasu before you eat. Now that you've enjoyed your meal, it's time to show some appreciation to the restaurant staff. Unlike in many Western countries, tipping is not a custom in Japan. Instead, a simple gochisusama deshita, meaning thank you for the meal, goes a long way in expressing your gratitude. It's also polite to return all dishes and utensils to their original positions and clean up after yourself as much as possible. Remember, respect goes beyond just the food in Japan. It extends to the people who prepare and serve it too. So, when you're leaving the restaurant, don't forget to give a slight bow and say arigato, which means thank you. It's these little details that make your dining experience truly Japanese. Moving on to the unwritten drinks rule. Dining out in Japan comes with its own unique etiquette. The norm revolves around ordering a drink, whether alcoholic or non-alcoholic. This isn't necessarily a demand, but a widely accepted practice. Straying from this norm, like opting for water, might be viewed as unusual. While this won't cause any major issues, the subtle deviation might raise a few eyebrows. The locals find it a bit unorthodox. It's a cultural nuance that visitors need to navigate. It's trivial, yet worth noting to those wishing to immerse themselves in the local lifestyle. So, if you want to blend in, go ahead and order a drink. Now let's talk about slurping. In Japan, slurping noodles or soba isn't frowned upon like in some cultures. Instead, it's perfectly acceptable, almost a norm. Many believe it's a compliment to the chef, but that's not the case. It's just their unique way of enjoying the meal. It's as commonplace as using a steak knife to cut steak in the West. A part of their etiquette, a part of their culinary experience ingrained in their culture. Were you told something different about slurping? Please let me know in the comments section because I'd really like to know. Takeout boxes are not often seen in Japan, except for fast food joints. Unlike in other cultures, you might not have the option to take home leftovers. In Japanese restaurants, the portion sizes are typically smaller, ensuring you don't overorder. This approach minimizes food waste. aligns with local customs, and promotes mindful consumption. The term toriezu plays a crucial role in this practice. It's a Japanese phrase that signifies good for now, used when ordering. So, when asked if you'd like more food, you can express contentment with the current order by saying toriezu. Remember, don't expect to receive doggy bags after your meal. At fast food joints and ramen houses, it's customary to clean up after yourself. Often, there's an intricate waste disposal system at play. Here's how it goes. Liquids, plastic, paper, utensils, all have designated spots. You don't just dump everything in one container. The method might appear complicated, but it's standard procedure. In ramen shops, you'll even return your bowl if there's a designated spot. This practice, while not universal, is in certain cultures and is a sign of respect for the establishment and its staff. It's about taking responsibility for your own mess and helping keep the place clean. Also, returning your bowl at ramen shops is a good practice if there's a designated area. Lastly, the payment process at the register. In numerous eateries, particularly more intimate ones, you settle your bill at the counter post-meal. This practice is a common sight and expected in Japan. Interestingly, they're a culture of no tipping in Japan. It is a unique etiquette that you do well to remember. When making payments, Japanese prefer to use a small tray placed next to the register, either for cash or credit card. This practice is appreciated and favored over a direct hand-to-hand exchange of money, as a section of Japanese population prefers not to indulge in physical contact. Often you'll find cashiers gesturing towards the tray, subtly indicating how they want the payment to be made. They prefer the tray to a direct exchange. This also helps when dealing with Japan's smallest bills, which are 1,000 yen bills. Consequently, you may find yourself handling a sizable amount of coins. Placing these coins on the tray comes in handy, making transactions smoother. For instance, during my visit to a Starbucks in Dotonbori, Osaka, the cashier simply tipped all the coins from the tray into the cash machine. The machine's automatic calculation eased his job and expedited the process, making it all efficient. It indeed streamlined his workload while accelerating the payment process. So, there you have it, my top 10 tips for dining in Japan. These are general recommendations to enhance your dining experience. Exceptions are there, so adapt accordingly. If unsure, just follow the locals. I'm preparing a part 2 video with more in-depth pro tips to help you dine like a master. If you found these suggestions beneficial, show your approval with a thumbs up. Please also consider subscribing to the channel for more such content. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.